You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Welcome.
It's good to be welcomed. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, he is Jeff. I'm Chris. And today we are the Bible Guys. And we invite you to be a Bible guy or a Bible girl, wherever you are.
Bible gal.
Bible gal.
Is that what you'd say?
I say girl, but did I say gal?
Gal? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's up to you, man.
So I would just say today we're diving in to another passage that's only found in the book of Luke.
Yeah.
But before we get there, we are going to read from our favorite news source.
Only the finest news sources.
Yes.
And this one is one that I think is a cautionary tale to everybody coming into the Christmas season.
Yes.
We've got all these Christmas parties. And this one, man erases entire year's worth of exercise in one meal.
A heck of a headline.
I don't know if it's possible, but it is a worthy goal.
Yes.
It says, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a local man undid an entire year's worth of diet and physical activity over the course of one single hour during his family's Christmas meal. Oh, yeah, Matt Carson told reporters, I can feel those pounds coming right back. That meal was amazing that I can't see my feet anymore. Carson figures he ate a cumulative 500,000 calories in the space of about 5 hours, accounting for continued munching on leftovers throughout the afternoon. After doing a bit of addition while lying on the floor moaning, Carson believes he did indeed erase all of the calories he burned exercising over the past 365 days.
Nice.
I was impressed, Rebecca Carson, Matt's wife, said. He just kept going and going. I made a lot of food this year, and I thought maybe he'd pace himself, but after he went back to the table for his 65th helping of turkey and stuffing, I knew we might have a problem. Following last year's Christmas meal, Carson had vowed to turn over a new leaf in the health department. He went to the gym twice per week, occasionally joined his wife for yoga, even took the stairs instead of the elevator when he could. Sadly, his entire year's worth of hard work was canceled out once again in one single afternoon.
You know, that's the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I tried. You got to believe me. I tried, Matt said, but the rolls got me. Well, the rolls and the mashed potatoes and the gravy and the turkey and the Jell-O salad and the sweet potato casserole and the green bean casserole with the bacon and, you know, the stuffing and the pie and the other pie, the other pie. And hey, is that pecan pie over there? As of press time, Matt was seen quietly weeping and rummaging through the fridge for leftovers while promising himself a trip to the gym first thing in the morning.
Of course he did.
Yep.
You know, by the way, it was, I worked out 2 days ago and I have
Good job.
a trainer, Mandy, and she said, okay, now you're going to do this section, then you're going to do this, then you're going to do this. And then she ran me over to the bike and she goes, I want you to race. Well, I mean, my legs were killing me, right? She goes, okay, go. And it was one of those fan wheels, you know, it blows the wind on you. And I'm pushing. And she goes, you have to race to 3 calories. I was like, 3 calories? So I'm like, okay, 3 doesn't sound like a lot. Man, that was a long time to burn 3 calories.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, and she goes, well, you know, a mile only burns like whatever it was, like 10 calories or something. And I said, are you kidding me? Or no, 100 calories, whatever it is. Know. And she said, yeah, you're going to have to, like row for like 5 minutes. And I thought to myself, it's no wonder why, like, we all put on more weight. Yeah. Because you eat something like an Oreo cookie and it's like, oh, that's 90 calories. Right. And I had to race with for 5 minutes to burn 3 calories.
Give it all you had just to burn 3 calories.
And so, yeah, if it's truly like a 2,000 calorie diet a day, like, man, some of these meals that we eat, they're like 3, 4, 5,000 calories.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you eating, dude?
Well, I'm saying America, not me.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, hey, so that comes from the Babylon Bee, which is, we think, the finest news source in America.
Yes.
And
it's just as reliable as every other news source.
Absolutely. And it's satire if you don't know, but funny. Okay, so be careful at Christmas. That's our cautionary tale today.
Yes.
Okay. Right now, there's all these snacks. Somebody just gave my wife a box of snacks.
Yes. Was it my wife?
No. And I walked past, and I grabbed a snack. And then I walked past again. I grabbed another one. And then finally, I turned back around, and I started to put it back in the box. She said, you can't put it back in the box. I said, I didn't take a bite. She said, you already touched it. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll suffer. I'll eat that one. I said, you need to put that lid on.
Right.
So then I walked by, and then I start fiddling with the lid, trying to get the lid, you know. And finally, I said, you need to put this away somewhere. Put it where I can't reach it. So she puts it away, and then I know where it is. So now it's in my
hilarious.
head. It was bad, man. I'm telling you, it's snack time. This is that time of the year when you just snack, man.
That's so funny.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
That's why it's the most wonderful time.
Most snackable time. Yep. Hey, we're going to give you a mission project to do. Would you like us, follow us on Facebook? And would you then share us on Facebook with all of your friends and family? Because we know Facebook needs Jesus. Facebook needs a little bit of the Bible, guys. So make sure you do that today. Well, we are in Luke chapter 14, verse 25 through 35, where Jesus teaches about the cost of being a disciple.
Yeah.
And this is one of those spots where he says, take up your cross kind of thing. So
yeah, he lays it down.
Yeah, this whole passage is really significant. So he says, a large crowd was following Jesus. He turned around and said to them, if you want to be my disciple, you must hate everyone else by comparison. Your father, mother, wife, and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even your own life. Otherwise, you cannot be my disciple. And if you do not carry your own cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciple. But don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there's enough money to finish it? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of money, then everyone would laugh at you. They would say, there's the person who started that building and can't afford to finish it. Or what king would go to war against another king without first sitting down with his counselors to discuss whether his army of 10,000 could defeat the 20,000 soldiers marching against him? And if he can't, he'll send a delegation to discuss terms of peace while the enemy is still far away. So you cannot become my disciple without giving up everything you own. Salt is good for seasoning, but if it loses its flavor, how do you make it salty again? Flavorless salt is good neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It's thrown away. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand.
There it is.
There you go.
Yeah. So,
we always say that. There it is. There you go.
I said before you read it, I said Jesus lays it down. I could add to that and say he lays it down by telling us that we need to pick it up.
Pick it up. There you go. Ooh, yeah.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
So
you've been really full of those really great phrases lately.
Have I?
Yeah. You think about some of the lines that you've put in the message notes.
Yeah.
For several of the different messages. Really pithy little sayings.
I can say this now because people will listen to this after the message. But I was so I was so proud of the lines I've come up with lately.
Yeah.
So this Sunday we talk about how there's scandals surrounding the birth. Like a virgin mother who's a teenager, unwed, those kind of things. The scandals. Well, if you think about it. Not only was Jesus' birth, scandalous, but his death was very scandalous, right? It was just illegal, all those kind of things. Yeah. And then he spent his life around scandal, right? So the line I wrote was, I said, Jesus is not afraid of scandals or scoundrels.
Ooh, there you go.
And I really like that line because it is so true. Because if you really think about it, and by the way, I'm being totally serious, not from a human perspective, but from a godly perspective. Jesus did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Like he knew that his birth and his death were going to be surrounded by scandal.
Yeah.
He did not avoid scandal. And people accused him of all sorts of things. You're doing this, you're eating with sinners, and you're a drunkard, and you're a glutton, and you're all these different things.
You're demon-possessed.
Yeah, you're demon-possessed. And of course, he was none of those things. He was on mission to love people who were scoundrels.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
And so he never compromised himself, but at the same time, he wasn't afraid of it. He wasn't afraid of any of those things because he was godly. He knew who he was. Others knew who he was.
Yep.
And so anyway, I loved that line because I actually thought, I think this is true about God. Like it's not just true about us, it's actually true about God.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid of scandals or scoundrels.
That's right. So, but you've had a whole bunch of those lately. We've kind of laughed about that little slogan.
Yeah.
So today, the one Jesus laid it down by telling us to pick it up.
Boom.
There you go.
I just came up with
That's
that.
another mic drop moment.
Yes.
You are so cool, Chris.
But hey, I try to be. I think I already told you this, but my first youth group, that was like probably my most special youth group that I worked at as a church youth pastor, had this on our wall. It was the one from, it was this one. It was from Luke. This was it. Luke 14, what is it, verse number 27 and 28, where it says, take up your cross and follow me. I think that the idea that we should take up our cross is, it sounds to us today, I think, different than it did in the first century. So for us, we're like, oh, take up your cross. It's the cross of suffering, and it's the burden that Jesus bore, while paying the price for sin and paying the price, as a savior. But back then, the cross didn't have any religious significance at all, did it?
Right.
The cross was the most torturous and devised, piece of execution method ever dreamt up by the Romans. And so what he's doing is he's saying, take up your cross. And what he's really saying is, identify yourself with me, the good and the bad, the commitments, everything. Right. And I think that it's quite a message.
We love the Life Application Study Bible, and the note for Luke 14:27 said, Jesus' audience was well aware of what it meant to carry one's own cross. When the Romans led a criminal to his execution site, he was forced to carry the cross on which he would die. So you're carrying your own instrument of death.
Right.
This showed his submission to Rome, and it warned observers that they'd better submit too. Jesus made this statement to get the crowds to think through their enthusiasm for him. He encouraged those who were superficial either to go deeper or to turn back. Following Christ means total submission to him, perhaps even to the point of death.
Yeah.
And, there is this kind of sense here, because he goes on after he says, take up your cross. He said, now I need you to really weigh what this means.
Right. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah. So he says, for, who builds a house or a building without first counting the cost? You got to work it out and understand there are expenses, there are costs, there are risks. He said, who goes to war? Well, what king goes to war without first measuring whether or not he has what it takes to win? And so Jesus is really saying, I want you not to just be flippant in your decision to follow me. I want you to know how much it's going to cost, and then it's going to require total submission, maybe even to death.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a really big thing. I think it's easy. Sometimes people can get caught up in Sunday school. I can remember sometimes it seemed like all of a sudden one kid raises his hand, trust Jesus. Next thing you know, everybody raises his hand. Everybody goes out, whatever, vacation Bible school, whatever. Sometimes some of those things that happen where it's just a really flippant kid's decision because all the other kids are doing it. But Jesus is saying here, hey, that's not the kind of decision you're making. It might cost you everything. It might seem like your parents, your family might think you hate them.
Yeah.
Because you joined me. The cost, people might mock you for entering into this process, or there's great risk. You might lose a lot if you're going to follow me. And so Jesus is inviting him, like it says here, either to go deeper or to turn back, but don't just go halfway.
Well, for me, there wasn't a ton of cost when I started to follow Christ. I mean, I lost my friends. That was costly.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And not a big deal compared to people around the world. But for me at the time, it was my universe. I lost reputation. I lost, let me think, popularity. You had to pay the price by, getting ridiculed, those kind of things, right? But, there are other people in America who their family disowns them, if they convert to Christianity. Yeah. And then there's people around the world where they risk their very lives, right? So here, Christianity is not illegal. It's not forbidden, but places around the world where if you convert to Christ or Christianity, you get killed, and people still do it.
I just got home from Nepal, and they were telling me, Nepal's 90-something% Hindu, and they were telling me that oftentimes if a person becomes a Christian, the family will have a funeral and announce that this person's dead. And then they won't even make eye contact. They'll look right through them if they happen to see them in town. They won't communicate. They grieve as if the person's dead, and they'll be banished from the village. And so we wound up having a group of Christians up in the mountains. We were right at the base of the Annapurna range there. I think the Annapurna range, there's only 12 mountains in the world that are over 8,000 meters, and 3 of them are in that range. You can see them all in the one picture, right? Wow. They're just huge. And so we were right at the base of those mountains, and there was a group of brand new believers, 19 of them. They wanted to get baptized, and they had invited us to come and just be witnesses. And then it was too dangerous. The police, there's an automatic 2-year prison sentence if you get baptized. There's a 5-year automatic prison sentence for the person who led you to Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So they want to get baptized, and then it gets too dangerous in their area. So we wind up meeting them way out, right on the edge of the jungle, and we park, and then we hike in about 1.5 miles, and there's little sketches, chalk drawings on rocks with arrows. There was a
Like a dove.
with an arrow pointing, and so we keep coming across those as we're walking out into the jungle, and then there's a waterfall, and at the base of the waterfall they were baptizing, and so we come out and they were singing and rejoicing, but it was a secret baptism. They were going quickly because they concerned about getting arrested, and one of the last people getting baptized came up out of the water wearing a t-shirt that said "Fearless," and wanted everybody to know, it doesn't matter what the cost is. I've counted the cost. The song they were singing is a song that we know now in English. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Right? That was those were the last words of a martyr, a Hindu martyr. A Hindu became a Christian, who was a martyr in India, and those were their last words as they were executed. And then these people were standing around this pool singing the words of a former martyr. I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. It was so powerful. And I was standing there thinking, one of the pastors I was with quoted this passage. They've counted the cost.
Yeah.
And they're willing to take up their cross.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it makes me so proud that you and I are a part of that kind of lineage, that there are those kind of Christians in the world, right? So I look around and I don't know that I see a lot of those kind of Christians always around me in my little safe place. But it's that when I'm around them, I want to aspire to them. I want to be worthy of having them as my brothers and sisters in Christ. And I think that everybody listening and watching the podcast today, I think there's a lot of Christians who go, yeah, I want that kind of Christianity.
Yeah.
Fearless Christianity in the face of any cost.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly incredibly inspiring. Yeah. And you hope that you would have, that kind of faith and that kind of courage. And, I remember when, I even hate to say this out loud, but remember the Columbine shootings? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And I remember Cassie Bernal's father came to our camp back then in the late 90s, and he wrote a book called "She Said Yes," because before she was killed, they said, "Do you believe in God?" And she said yes, knowing that they were killing people. Right. And so she said yes, and the idea I remember just thinking that title still sticks in my mind. She said yes, because I thought to myself, I would hope that I would say yes.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, again, you just never know. Right. But I would like to think that I would say yes.
I think that's one of those things you prepare for. I think that's exactly what Jesus is saying. Count the cost. Yeah. You don't know unless you've really worked out the scenarios. So many things in my life, if I just walk in with no plan, it's a 50-50 chance of it working out the right way. But if I come in with a plan and I've thought it through and I've worked it out, I've determined what my responses would be in certain circumstances, I wind up being much more successful if I'm negotiating. I wind up being much more successful if I'm making a presentation or if I'm trying to sell something or whatever. When you come in with a plan, when you've made up your mind ahead of time, when you've counted the cost, when you've considered the strategies, can my 10,000 defeat those 20,000? When you've thought it through, I think you're much more likely to succeed at it. And this is the invitation he's having. So even today, I hope our people never are faced with those things. But the only way you can really know that you would do it is if you plan ahead. If this ever happens, God, give me the grace. I want to be the one that says yes.
Well, it reminds me of Daniel chapter 1, where it says that he resolved in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Right. So he made up his mind beforehand.
That's right.
Right. And so he prepared for what was coming his way.
Right.
Yeah. And so, that's really what it is.
There's tremendous power in making decisions, right? And as opposed to just winging it all the time.
Right.
And then the other part of it is, I would say this: if I can't say yes just in the lunchroom or in the hallway at school or with my friends, if I can't stand for Christ, then if I can't stand for what's right in my corporation, if I can't do that, then I'm probably, if I was faced with a gun in my head, I probably wouldn't honor Christ then either. And so counting the cost, there's big costs and little costs. And if we're not willing to pay the little things, we're probably not willing to face the big ones either, right?
Yeah.
So we begin to develop the habits necessary to make the big stands. You develop those by making the little choices between here and there, right?
Yeah. And let's not forget that he also brings in salt at the end, right? And so he says, salt is good for seasoning, but if it loses its flavor, how do you make it salty again? Because flavorless salt is good for almost nothing. and it's thrown out to be, to be walked on, right?
Have you ever had fries and you knew they were going to be the best fries, and then you take a bite and there's no salt?
Yes.
In my mind, French fries are a conveyance for salt.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Salt and ketchup. Those are the two. And
Yes.
have you ever go, oh, that looks perfect, and then you put it in your mouth and go, no
Yeah.
salt, right?
Right.
It's so disappointing.
Yeah. At one time I did an illustration at Spring Hill Camps where I made cookies without salt.
Oh,
And,
wow.
then I made cookies without flour. Then I made cookies without vanilla, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I made all these batches of cookies and passed them all out, and had everybody sample things
Oh,
with
wow.
different
Yeah,
ingredients.
yeah.
And then of course I made a good batch of cookies, and everybody was dying for it at that,
Right,
that point,
right.
So without one ingredient, it's a bad thing. So.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's a great thought. It's a great place to end, and that
Be
wraps
salty.
it. Yeah, be salty and count the cost.
That's right.
So, all right, we'll see you next time on the Bible Guys.